From good to outstanding challenged good teachers to become even better. Now top inspector Claire Gillies is back, revisiting some of the teachers she saw last time. She'll observe them once again to see if they've moved on in their teaching. So will they deliver an outstanding lesson?
With all these teachers I've come back to see again, although they may not have all been seen delivering an outstanding lesson, it's clear they've all got a better insight into what makes an outstanding lesson, an outstanding learning.
From good to outstanding, we challenge teachers from reception through to Key Stage 4 to go from good to outstanding. Top Inspector Claire Gillies observed them teach. We gave them one-to-one expert advice in their subject areas. And a few weeks later, Claire went back to see whether they'd upped their teaching from good to outstanding. In this programme, Claire will revisit primary teacher James.
This whole process has given me a chance to really take a step back and reflect and to think about what I'm doing, and hopefully the end result will be, and I'm sure it is, a much better teacher.
James teaches Year 5 at Southwold Primary. When he was first filmed, he was in his third year of teaching. Now, 1 year later, James considers how taking part in the programme has influenced his teaching.
Yeah, looking back on that first lesson, I could see straight away how I present myself to the children. Hands in pockets, sort of slightly defensive posture, that sort of stuff, and that's one of the big things to come out of this for me. How my body actions kind of emphasise what I'm actually saying to the children.
When Claire Gillies first observed James in the spring term of 2009, he was teaching maths to his Year 3 and 4 class.
It's sorting using a Venn diagram, depending on whether children are girls or boys, and if they're 8. One of the big things to come out of the first programme was the range of abilities in the classroom, making sure everyone's learning and that the teaching is personalised and they can all access what's being taught. Because in the middle you couldn't put, they've got 4 and 8 legs, they've either got 4 or they haven't.
Claire's feedback to James also picked up on his need to question the pupils more effectively and give the topic a context.
There was a feeling of, well, so what? Why do we want to do these Venn diagrams or paradigms? If you can just think of some way to really say, well, it's useful because, I think that's our challenge.
Claire talked after the first lesson about responding to children's comments, bringing real-life context into it, making it relevant. If you want them to kind of learn and be enthusiastic, they need to know why they're doing it. So again, I've thought a lot about that.
To boost James's teaching, he had an intensive day of bespoke CPD. Primary maths expert Andrew Jeffrey was brought in to offer sound advice.
This is the human physical Carroll diagram thing. So imagine a line on the floor, and you can get all the children and say, right, boys, this side of the line, everybody else, this side of the line.
One of the big things to come out of Andrew's session was about making the learning real and kinesthetic and getting children kind of active. And again, I hope that my teaching now kind of reflects that.
Don't be afraid to use the most important resource in the classroom, which is the children themselves.
Yeah. So, as he said, the children are the biggest resource you've got in the classroom, and I'm going to use them.
There's a number of different ways they could classify these. They could classify them by shape, they could classify
Andrew
them by
also gave
number,
James some tips on
colour,
resourcing
something
for
that they
different
can relate
abilities.
to more. The other thing is the higher ability children as well. Why not stretch them to 3 circle problems?
Thought carefully about differentiation, about activities, about making it more sort of, they're more active. They're not always recording in their books. They are, they're playing games, they're getting their hands sort of dirty, and we're doing a lot of sort of more investigative sort of work.
Communications coach Ulrika Schulte-Bauchloh worked with James on his presentation skills.
Okay, children, come to the carpet now, please.
Yeah.
The session with Ulrika was really beneficial because the things she covered were things that you don't cover on your training as a teacher. So, for example, the importance of body language. Obviously not hands in your pockets is a bad thing, but just how your posture dictates kind of almost how you're feeling and how you are in the classroom.
Good morning, children. Today in maths, we're going to sort these shapes on the carpet here
using our Venn diagram on the board here.
Fantastic.
Ulrika talked about my voice, and I hope that I've got more clarity in my voice now, and the children can understand instructions and discussions, that sort of stuff, much clearer than they used to.
Back then, James had just 2 weeks to take all the advice on board and try it out in the classroom.
Here's some money for you. What I want you to do is to go and buy a ticket from Jared.
When it came to the crunch and Claire returned, James had made some clear improvements.
Let me say perhaps straight away that it was certainly a stronger lesson than the last one I saw. The reason it wasn't this time upstanding was because some of them needed a bit more oomph.
To be honest, I felt that the second lesson was a bit of a disaster, and I was disappointed afterwards. Obviously that I hadn't reached outstanding, but equally that I just knew that it hadn't gone as well as I'd hoped.
Despite all the hard work, Claire did not grade James's lesson outstanding that time. So with another year of teaching under his belt, School Inspector Claire Gillies will be revisiting James's classroom in a few days.
So this week we've been learning about shapes. We've done work on 2D shapes, we've done work on angles. Okay? Today's focus is going to be symmetry.
In preparation for Claire's return, James has asked head teacher Gary Boyd to give him some critical feedback.
How does symmetry fit in to this term's theme, the Taj Mahal and buildings and structures?
Because both the sides are same.
Both the sides are same. If I was to draw a line, I'm not using a ruler, so it won't be the straightest line, down the middle, and even down the pond in front of it, yeah, you can see that both sides are broadly the same. Obviously my line's not straight.
James, since the last programme, has made great progress. I think something that he's really taken on board is making each lesson relevant to the children's experience, and contextualising things has been a real big difference.
Would it be symmetrical? No. No. So it's really important that where you draw the line is exactly in the bit where it's symmetrical. I've really thought now really closely about why we're doing things. And sometimes you might think, well, actually, in everyday life, they might not need to know the skills, but you can still make it kind of relevant through other ways. In our case here, our buildings and structures, our theme this term. What we're going to do now is we're going to go to the music room and do a very, very short little experiment with you guys. We're going to make some symmetrical patterns. Yeah? Okay,
He's become a fuller teacher, if you like. What we're seeing now are more active lessons.
Okay, so we're now in the music room. Callum, Lauren and Caprice, I want you to stand anywhere you like on this side of the line. Mashud, Camille, Danielle, your job is going to exactly mirror where these three children are standing. Okay? And can you all take the same number of steps back as your partner? So we've got an exact reflection of these children with these children in terms of distance apart.
So those children that get it through the words, fine. He picks up a few more, getting it through the actions. So everything he underlines with a practical example or a different element of his teaching.
Keep the symmetry the same. Fantastic. 2 lines of symmetry. Well done. It's time for us to do some work at our desks independently. I've got some really interesting tasks for you all to do, all of which concern our building, our structure this term, which is the Taj Mahal.
Small ones. The windows.
Ask yourself, is what you're doing symmetrical?
No. Some of it is.
Claire mentioned about resourcing, and I've thought carefully about that and tried to make sure always that children have what they need and they're ready to go. And also to make sure that the activities for each group aren't always just sort of recording and very sort of dry, but actually they're getting their hands dirty, they're doing different things. And one very last thing I want you to do is to make a shape that has 2 lines of symmetry. Easy as that, yeah?
Yeah.
Brilliant, good. Okay. What about a shape with more than 2 lines of symmetry?
A circle.
Oh, circle. How many's that got, Lauren? Fantastic.
He's seen almost the snowball effect of the pupils recognising what he's getting at conceptually and transforming that into day-to-day events that they can really comprehend and understand.
So it's got 5 lines of symmetry.
6. I could see 7.
5 lines of symmetry? Is she right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so well done. Fantastic. Good learning, good listening.
I think they really did understand the concept and had some idea about why it would be useful in real life, so that was good to see. For me now, I suppose, going forward to the next lesson, it would be checking for understanding, more questions of the children that they are demonstrating the progress they're making. We do a lot of almost, and I'm guilty of it as well, of checking for understanding by asking them if they understand, rather than asking them to explain what they understand. But it is a small step. These are degrees, you know, from the very good that the lesson is to the outstanding.
Or, for
A
example,
year ago, our
can you
maths
tell us,
expert,
just kind
Andrew
of
Jeffrey,
scratch the needle across
also
the record
picked
and
up
say,
on
right,
James's need to
that's
improve
interesting.
his
Tell me,
questioning.
in terms of the questioning, some of the questions that you need to come back with are the quality questions like, oh, how did you work that out?
Yeah.
Or, for example, can you tell us all how you did that? Or who agrees with that?
For his next observation with Claire, James is planning a lesson on line graphs, trying to bring together all Andrew's advice.
One of the things I'm going to do is kind of responding to what Andrew said about getting the kids involved in what they're doing. So I thought about line graphs and I thought about what's going to work and how can I get the children involved. So we've got a big axis here. It's already labelled for the children, so it's scaffolded nicely. Then the idea is that I'll kind of tell a story to the children about the kind of day in the classroom. The children are going to plot the line graph to reflect the story I'm telling them. And so I think this activity should hopefully bring the line graphs to life.
It's the day of James's observation, and Claire is back. After a year of working hard on his teaching, will James impress Claire enough to get outstanding?
Right, today's focus is line graphs, a new concept. We've done bar charts.
James has 60 minutes to impress Claire.
Now, just to make it relevant for us, we've been focusing on the Taj Mahal this term. So, our changing data over the course of the day at the Taj Mahal. Now, this is where line graphs come in. The way to plot a line graph is I get my data. So the first piece of data, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's 10 degrees. 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 10 degrees. And what I do is I put a cross just there.
Looking back on James's 2 lessons, I remember quite clearly how skillfully he used the interactive whiteboard, his excellent calm manner with the pupils and how much they clearly enjoyed the lessons with him.
Who would like to come and do the next one for me? I'm going to say nothing. I want you to do it for me.
But the key thing that was missing was the careful planning for the different abilities so that they would all make, at their own level, similar amounts of progress.
Hands up if Crystal's correct. Darren? Is she okay? She is okay. I think she's okay. Yeah? 10 o'clock. There we are. 18 degrees. Okay, just a little exercise about line graphs. What I've done is I've put together 2 axes. I want you to imagine this line graph is showing the number of people in the classroom during the school day. I would like a volunteer to use the piece of rope to make the line graph as I tell you a story about the classroom. Who reckons they can do it? Ben, you've been a bit quiet this morning. Okay, 8 o'clock in the morning, James walks into the classroom. There's now 1 person in the classroom. At 9 o'clock, in walk the children. Only 19 children come to school first thing in the morning, so there are now 20 people in the classroom at 9 o'clock. And at 10 o'clock, everyone, including me, goes outside and down to the assembly hall. So no one's in the classroom. In fact, that should be 0, shouldn't it? Okay, and my rope is too short, I've just realised. Do you get the idea? Yeah? Okay, it's time to go to our tables. Here's some data. We're going to present this data in a big line graph. Okay? So, 1 axis will be the day, 1 axis will be the temperature. Zahid, where would you put the day of the week? Which axis?
Days will go there.
Why do you think they go there? I agree with you. Tell me why.
Because all the times will go there and all the numbers will go.
Right, yeah. We tend to put in bar charts the frequency here, and with line graphs we put the numbers up here, don't we? Okay?
So which day of the week would you like to go to this place?
Wednesday.
Yep, I think I'd agree with you. Why?
Because it's the warmest
It's the warmest day, isn't it? Yes. How warm is it on Wednesday?
16 degrees Celsius.
Brilliant.
Right. There is our line graph.
Looks like an N.
Looks like a what?
N.
An N.
Oh yeah. Mountain. That's me.
What do you think? Why do you think this is a really good way of presenting the data? Zahid?
It looks better. And it's a better way of showing it.
Right. It brings it to life, doesn't it? Just to finish off, I want to incorporate some literacy into our numeracy. Who could tell me, using the data here, about the lorry driver's journey? Who wants to have a go? Crystal, can you have a go?
At home, I get into the lorry, drive for 1 hour and run out of gas. Drive for another hour and reach your gas station, top up.
So you stop and top up, so we're going no further from home now. Good.
Top up. Get in, drive for another hour until I reach to...
Where are you going in your lorry?
Reach to the factory.
Get to the factory, lovely.
Load up on all the bananas.
Great.
Took an hour drive to reach Tesco's, dropped off the bananas, and a 2-hour drive back home.
Okay, so it's probably a little bit longer than that, 3-hour drive home. But I like the way you did that. Great, okay. I think we made a pretty good start to our work on line graphs, seeing as it's the first day. So well done, everybody.
So how does Claire rate James now?
James, thank you very much for letting me come back to visit you again. It was a real treat. And I'm just going to pick up on what you said to the class at the end of the lesson, which was that it was a pretty good start to our work on line graphs. Well, I think it was a very, very good start to your work on line graphs. I don't think it was quite into the outstanding, but there were certainly outstanding features of that lesson, and it was convincingly good. Did you feel that was outstanding, or did you feel that was good, or did you feel, ooh, one or two, if you know, would you just tweak a few things if you...
Well, there was the resourcing thing with the rope midway through it,
right,
which is irritating. I hadn't thought about that too much. Good or outstanding? It certainly felt like it went really well.
I think it did go really well. And when one is evaluating the lesson as a whole, it's the learning as well as what you're putting in and the whole atmosphere that has to be really powerful, that they've all got to be learning and all grasping and moving forward. And certainly a lot of them made great strides. But let's celebrate, shall we, some of the really, I thought, very, very good or even outstanding features of it. Was your passion to make it relevant to what you've been doing, link it back to India. That was fantastic. The interactive whiteboard, just as before, you were using really effectively, and it was great when they came up and did the crosses. As, again, usual, you really know what you've got individually here, and there was very subtle planning of who was going to do what. I mean, there were so many outstanding features. If I had to pull together why the lesson as a whole wasn't quite outstanding, was that bit of a dip, loss of pace, when we got onto the one on the carpet, and that they worked very hard, but just a little bit more impetus and pace.
Right.
Would have, I think, got you that little bit further by the end of the lesson. But forward and on, and thank you very much for letting me share that really good lesson with lots of outstanding features.
Thank you. I think if you've got high expectations and you're ambitious and you want to do well and improve and you're reflective and stuff, then somewhere you're obviously disappointed that you're not getting the outstanding kind of grade. Part of me feels that to be outstanding the whole time is unsustainable anyway, so I feel that I'm doing a good job for those children on a day-to-day basis, and so yeah, you know, I'm happy.